All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the January 24th meeting of the Energy Advisory Committee, City of Easthampton. I'm Jamie Paquette, the chair, and joined, current member Scott Tunderman, Maren Goldstein, and our newest member, John Pepe, is here. Just got approved this month for membership on the committee. So excited to have a new member. We've had just the briefest of email interactions, and I was giving him just a quick lay of the land before we got started, but everyone that's here, we'll start with Scott and Maren. You guys want to just introduce yourselves real quick, talk about your membership on the committee, what else you do, and then we'll let John introduce himself real quick.
I'm Scott. I work as the secretary for the committee, which means I take notes or minutes and stuff. I studied green energy and the social psychology of energy choices when I was a student in college, and haven't really been involved professionally a lot in energy or green energy stuff. But I'm a handyman contractor kind of person, and I always try to incorporate good building practices. And I'm still sort of a citizen advocate for green energy. And I think I've been on the committee now for about a year and a few months.
So thanks, Scott.
Hi, Maren Goldstein. Wow, I just realized getting close to being a decade on this committee? So that'd be a little scary. Probably around 15 plus years in the renewable energy efficiency realm, and work actively in the rec and retail supply energy markets. So very closely involved with a lot of the different programs that this committee might be able to offer advice and advisoriness to the mayor on.
Excellent. Thanks, Maren. Give the quick rundown on myself. Jamie Paquette. Speaking of scary numbers, just realized I've been about 20 years now dealing with solar energy especially, but renewables generally. 10 years in the nonprofit world, and now the past 10 years on the recruiting side for an agency that works with clients across renewable energy. So I've had a longstanding interest in energy issues, and haven't had a lot of chance to really get my hands dirty on active, projects and things like that. So I've joined around the same time as Scott. I think we're coming up on about 2 years, and it's been nice to be able to, be involved in some of these conversations, start to see some things, bearing some fruit and coming up with some new ideas. We got a few, and I think we're, hopefully headed for some more on ways that we can push the city towards more renewables, more efficiency, and just sort of a better overall energy program and policy. So John, welcome. Good to have you. You want to give us a quick background on yourself? You're on mute, just so. Oh, John, you're muted, so we're going to have to undo that first.
Hired a year and a half ago, and so I haven't been doing a lot of Zoom. So I got to get warmed up. Anyway, I said I'm glad to be appointed. I hope I can help spread the workload out a little bit. Maybe not immediately be useful, but in the longer run. My background is really in waste management and recycling. I spent 35 years doing that at different places in the state and UMass, always with the focus on the energy benefits of recycling and waste reduction, even more with more emphasis on that than landfill issues or that sort of thing. And I've had an energy interest and curiosity, and done a fair amount of reading and research on my own over the last 20 years. But about last couple of months, I've been trying to bone up on the town's master plan, the state's energy pathways plan. I guess I forget what they call that exactly, but I read through a fair amount of that. Your meeting minutes, basic background documents and trying to catch up on your projects. But so I hope I can be useful soon.
Great. Well, we're really happy to have you. There'll definitely be ways to be useful right off the bat, I'm sure. We're all doing our best with volunteer hours and everything. So that's how it goes. All right. Well, speaking of minutes, Scott, I saw you pass those around a little while before the meeting. I think we can move to approve those. Any objections, or anyone want to make a motion to approve? Anybody?
I'll make a motion to move those.
All right. There's only 4 of us. I don't know if we need a second, but go ahead, Scott.
I'll second. I felt a little awkward moving to approve my own minutes, so I thought someone else should.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. All those in favor, I should say.
Aye.
Aye. I didn't read them, but I trust.
Yes, exactly. A lot of trust involved. All right. Minutes are approved from the November 22nd meeting. We do have some members of the public here, which I'm happy to see. Is there anything that any of you would like to say right off the bat? Introduce yourselves or? Okay, go ahead, Connie Dawson.
I just want to say that the reason I wanted to come to this meeting is that I understand that this committee has decided to expand its view on what they should be working on, and they've started talking about developing municipal aggregation, which I think is a fantastic idea, and I'm in support of that. And I hope that the committee will continue to think of other ways they can be more involved in the community and helping everyone in Easthampton get more involved in getting off of oil and gas. So I'm really glad to know that you guys are working on that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will be talking about that here more in just a minute. Anybody else for the public speak portion of today?
I'll just introduce myself. Again, my name's Connie Denham, and I was just elected to City Council. So actually, I came today for 2 reasons. One, very concerned about climate change and the impact on our communities and the things that we can do to help mitigate that. And the other thing is I want to be supportive of your committee. And so just came today to learn about where you all are in your process and how I can best support you.
Wonderful. Definitely appreciate having you here. Real quick, Connie, which subcommittees are you a member of, just for my own edification?
Sure. I'm on finance, and I'm also on rules and government relations.
Okay. So one thing we'll talk about, with aggregation is I think we got to figure out which committee that actually is going to fall under. I'm not sure that we are brief discussions with Owen and Tom, not 100% sure whether it's going to be rules and governance or ordinance or something else. So, but anyway, well, since Curtis is not yet here, we'll just go slightly out of order and jump right into the aggregation piece, and then we'll come back to the solar ordinance working group when he's able to join us. So those of you that haven't been here before probably know at least a little bit about what municipal aggregation is. So what it is, a chance for the city to sort of combine the buying power of residents and businesses within the city to promote can be a variety of different things, but usually with the goal of buying more renewable energy and having everybody using and promoting the use of more renewables across the state. So that's done by bringing the supply, the supply under the aegis of the city through an entity that I guess would be created, and then basically everyone in town is opted into that, and how we'll be set up with certain choices that will have some say, and the city council will have some say in creating what those choices are. And it can be everything from like the bare minimum of renewables that the state requires up through 100% renewable energy option, and there'll be different price points for that. But essentially, it's just sort of large scale adoption, hopefully, of a larger percentage of renewables within the city's energy users, both residential and commercial. So the general process with that, and I don't have all the notes in front of me, so I may leave some general things out. But we explore that. Starting here, we can make some recommendations. We've talked with consultants who have done this with other towns and municipalities across the Commonwealth. They have sort of walked us through how it works. Offered to be the group that works with us to do this. There's no cost to the city for that. They make their money later once the program is implemented for the running of the program. So. The general steps are, first, the city council at this point will have to craft an ordinance, or I don't know if it's an ordinance or just a recommendation or something like that. I forget the exact term. Somebody feel free to jump in if they think of it. But basically in favor of that and supporting the creation of that process. At that point, once the city has signed off, then it goes to the state, to DPU, where, from what we've heard, it will sit for some unknown amount of time for them to process, and we get in the queue behind a bunch of other places, municipalities that have already gone through this process. There's a lot of them in the state already, and many more, I think, in the queue, and it's we've told that it's just a backlog, and they don't have a mandate to clear through that with any speed, unfortunately. So not sure what we can expect in terms of the time frame there, unfortunately, but the very least we can go through the process of getting into the queue, and then hopefully it'll start to clear, move a little bit faster. So as I said, we've had some presentations done here for the group. I've had some very preliminary discussions with councilors Zaret and Peak about this. Wanted to get them some more information, like to get them set up, or the city council generally set up, with a presentation, possibly from the consultants, as a prelude to putting together the council sort of language and approval process. So that's kind of where we are, trying to get this moved to the next step with the city council. So the next steps for that would be getting a couple, a champion or two from the council to work on that, to start putting the language together for the council to debate and approve. And I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything? Anybody? That seemed like the basic. Connie Dawson, go ahead. Oh, I got planning department coming in.
Am I allowed to talk even though I'm not on the committee? I don't want to. Is that allowed? I just have a question, which is what Tom is working on in terms of the internet. I thought that actually is that a CAA could go underneath that, because that is it's actually an electrical utility, a municipal electrical utility. That's what it's the same. They both would go under that. Is
right.
That true?
It's possibly true, but what we've heard from the consultant is it's very unlikely, and it's a much messier process, because to do that, now you have to take another piece away from the utilities in order to run that as like your own municipal light plant. So then the city takes on more responsibility, and the utility, which does not have to sign off on that either, I think. So you have to go, you get into this whole other back and forth, and you put a lot heavier lift from a management perspective on an ongoing basis as well. So I know the original onus of the MLP was to do it for internet service specifically, and that I think is generally an easier lift than the the electricity generation and delivery side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, we were kind of disabused of that notion. One of the meetings towards the end of last year that really not something that we probably want to do. Because there was even talk, with the mayor of saying, well, that maybe entering into agreements with, I think South Hadley was a possibility for that. But then, that even starts to get even a little bit messier than if you start to commingle all that stuff, I believe.
Okay.
So, from the standpoint of ease of making this happen, it's best to just sort of stick with the working with the consultant, setting up the program, letting the utility handle the generation side, and we just figure out where we're buying that electricity from in aggregate, and then the plans that we put in place with the different mixes of renewables and traditional fuels and that sort of stuff. Yes, John.
Is that a bid process the consultant will lead the town through to get vendor pricing?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yep. So they'll go through that with us. They'll collect. It's a whole RFP process. So they'll collect things. We'll be able to discuss that here. I think it'll go through the council and possibly the mayor for ultimate approval. And then once that's in place, then we get the onboarding and then get everything set up and get everything switched over. So it's probably minimum a couple years beginning to end, even from the time that we get a council resolution moving forward.
I had a question. I looked at some of the other reports from other municipalities that had done municipal aggregation, and I was confused at the time. I thought I was looking for South Hadley because I thought we were piggybacking with the municipal aggregation with South Hadley as opposed to the municipal light plant business. But so I found Hadley in there, and this was, I think, as of 2019, their contract for 2019. There's like a penny difference per kilowatt hour between the 100% green and what the current residential rate, being a penny more for the 100% green per kilowatt hour. Has the committee or town city council, anybody been concerned at all about, even though there's an option to reject, to not take this alternative, to opt out, that there'll be some backlash from people having to initially seeing a rate that's higher than what they currently get, even though we can tell them there's an opt out.
Right. Yeah, that's come up certainly in our discussions, and that's something that's going to happen anywhere, right? There's always going to be a contingency of people that are just sort of, I mean, the consultant, I think, even said, like, there are some people that know down to the penny, how much they pay on their electrical bill every month, and those people keep really close track. So that's why I usually build out a few different options, right? So you can have one that's basically like, here's the bare minimum. This is basically what you already get because the state already requires a certain amount of renewables in the mix. And you can have that offering for people that want to just sort of stay the course, right? But then those that really, want to support, there's, it could be like a 25% option and a 50% and a 100% option. And those would be priced out accordingly. And depending on the timing of all that, then you could get a good price that that actually reflects well in the future as regular prices go up. If you've locked something in for however many years, and then meantime natural gas prices spike or whatever, and the regular rate goes up that the utility is charging, you can look pretty good in comparison. So that may be what happened with Hadley, where there's such a negligible difference between what you would normally pay and what you might pay for 100%.
And the consulting group who presented to us about aggregation mentioned all that kind of stuff and really emphasized educational materials and helping with public outreach as part of the whole process to get as many people as possible to understand what it's about and to get people on board before anything gets rolled out. So, so there's kind of buy-in from as much of the community as possible. And and it helps that they've done this in other places, so they have some lessons learned that they can share. And we're sort of not trying to reinvent this wheel on our own.
Right. And way back at the beginning, I did speak to a woman in Greenfield who led their process. They were one of the first towns in Massachusetts that did this. And she, sort of talked me through it and what their experience was like. And, I think generally speaking, it was pretty well received, then back when this was still kind of a newer thing. But definitely something to keep in mind. And, it is good in that sense that there is an opt-out. So if somebody's like, really just like wants no part of it, they can make that choice for themselves. I was worried that it was going to be, we were going to have to get so many people to opt in. I didn't even realize at first that it was just kind of like this thing that happens. And then, everybody's got it unless they raise their hand and say no. So that made it a lot more palatable to me, just to go through and try to have to mount a whole PR campaign in the lead up to it. Yeah. So I guess Connie Denham, since you're here from the council, and you said you're interested in this sort of thing. Is this the type of thing that you could help us get to the rest of the city council, or help us get on an agenda there for a meeting, get a presentation set up? Whether it's the whole thing.
Yeah, I think I would try to help you to do that. Obviously, I'm new, so I'm still learning the process of that. But I would reach out, and if it would go to the rules committee, then that's something certainly I could help out with.
Okay. Super. So, so as far as like the next steps go, I guess we'd like to. Again, maybe, I've got some materials that the consultant has sent that I can share with city councilors, but I think, having a more engaging sort of, face-to-face / Zoom, discussion about it, maybe a presentation, maybe the consultants coming to be able to talk to people, talk to the councilors directly, would be like what we'd like to have happen next, so that then the council can start to put, a resolution together, to get that passed and have that happen, within the near term. So we can follow up outside of this meeting with you. And like I said, I've already been in touch with Councilors Zarrett and Peak about this. So to get everybody together, try to figure out, what's a good time, what's a good method for doing this, and then get something on the calendar for that.
Yep, I can reach out to them. I don't know if you would go to the committee first, or you would come to the council, but it seems to me that you might go to the committee first, and provide that, and then they would move it forward to the full council.
Right. Yeah. The advantage of maybe going to the full council is just to give everybody sort of a base level education before it gets discussed in a little more detail. So, something could be done in 20 minutes or half an hour, perhaps at a full city council meeting. So we'll work on that. So that'll be where that goes next. Does anybody else from the committee have anything else to add to that discussion or the process? Or
I just want to say one more thing. I think that Easthampton Climate Action would be very happy to help with the public education reach out part when that time comes. Just wanted to throw that into the mix.
Definitely. No, that's great. And it'll be great to have allies and partners, coming at this from different angles to support. Because certainly our reach, as a committee and whatever is, we'll do the best we can, but there's going to need to be a really active outreach campaign, education campaign around it. So I appreciate that, Connie. Thanks. Okay. So we will, get that moving, report back at the next meeting on where things are. For the solar ordinance working group, I think Curtis has joined us now. So again, a quick bit of background for John and those who haven't been as involved. The planning department is looking to update the language in our planning rules around solar in town. And trying to figure out, what makes sense in terms of promoting and limiting in different measures here and there. So they've brought together people from different parts of the city, different governmental agencies, different committees. Maren and I have been involved in those meetings to this point from our group. And Curtis has been leading that for the planning department. And so if he's here and able,
I am.
All right, cool. Gonna give us.
I just thought that was such a good preamble. It saved me time. I appreciate it. So hi to all of you, all of those who I've not worked with on the solar working group. My name is Curtis Wiener. I'm an assistant planner here with the city of Easthampton. I have my son with me because he had to get picked up early from daycare. So just if I'm moving around much more than normal, I apologize. Can I be made co-host so I can share a PowerPoint?
Sure. Tax my knowledge of how to do that. But just hold on a second. Security.
Just
do it directly on your
share, just go to the share screen.
Yep, I got you.
Oh yeah. Oh, I already have. No, it says it's disabled because I'm not co-host. You'll have to go to the three dots by my name and say make co-host.
I just did, so you should be good.
Great. I sure am. Give me a second. Okay, slideshow from beginning. Okay, so the solar ordinance came about starting with Owen Zarrett on the city council with the idea of incentivizing certain kinds of solar and also trying to bring the city of Easthampton solar ordinance into line with the state's SMART program, with the idea of both trying to incentivize solar where possible and restrain development of the remaining green space parcels in Easthampton that are for agriculture and recreational or ecological use. So to that end, the solar ordinance is a comprehensive rebuild of section 7.3 of our zoning ordinance, which currently is just our solar ordinance, with the goal of creating more options for future solar. The first thing it does is it defines and divides a number of different solar facilities on the basis of their impact in the community. For example, we would very much like to see adaptive reuses of existing structures, brownfields, gray fields, small-scale residential solar, and dual-use agricultural solar. The original solar ordinance, section 7.3, made no distinction between different kind of solar facilities or the kind of ground upon which they're installed. Installing a solar panel in the middle of a green field or clearing forest was just as just as onerous as installing it on top of the new carports that River Valley Co-op put in, and they required a special permit for that solar facility. As a result, we created 3 new use categories for solar. Use group 1 is going to be solar facilities that are allowed by right, very low impact, and the kind of things that would be backyard solar or building mounted solar on structures newly proposed or already existent, where we wouldn't want to have to put them through the ringer on the permitting process again. Use group 2 are solar facilities that we want to allow as much as possible, but we want to have a certain amount of regulatory control over, basically just to make sure everyone's playing fair. After all, some of these have a difference of scale, where you could hypothetically have a very large, impactful land development plan, but only in aggregation. And so, we want to take a look at these dual-use solar, agricultural and solar generation, brownfield solar and grayfield solar, but we want to make them subject only to site plan approval rather than special permit approval. The advantage for that is that there's no appeal period, and even though it's subject to the public process, there are slightly fewer permitting costs and timelines that a major project like that would have to bear. Last but not least, large-scale solar like Beacon Solar at 50 Florence would still be required to get a special permit. And here, we've provided new constraints aimed at trying to make sure we have a holistic analysis of the site upon which you're going to see development. For example, and I'll get into some of those details in a second. So use groups. Use group 1, greenfield solar under 2,000 square feet and building mounted solar panels. Very straightforward. We're not proposing any impact more than, a backyard solar panel, carport solar, or rooftop solar for your residents. The goal is to allow maximum municipal support for this kind of adaptive reuse. And I mean that at any scale. For example, while greenfield solar of up to 2,000 square feet is in use group 1, if you wanted to completely cover the Pleasant Street Mills in solar panels, and that would be way over 2,000 square feet, that would still be use group 1 because it's all building mounted solar. We would therefore allow that in with whatever building permit you would require in order to put up that apparatus, and no additional city permitting from the planning department at least. Use group 2 are slightly larger greenfield solar facilities, 2,000 and 10,000 square feet, where it slightly goes above the amount we would expect for on-site generation accessory solar. And brownfield mounted solar, dual use solar, and impervious mounted solar. We very much want to encourage these. And the difference between a special permit and a site plan review is a meaningful distinction for many developers, even if the permitting requirements are pretty similar for our department. It means that they're not subject to an appeal period, and it means that they can't be denied. We can continue them indefinitely and kind of de facto deny them, but we just by like keeping them in committee forever, as it were. But we can't outright deny them and say you can't do this development the way you want it to, as long as they showcase that they're willing to keep continuing and trying with new site plans. Last but not least, greenfield solar over 10,000 square feet is allowable by special permit, just as it was before. But now we have additional requirements for review by the Conservation Commission, additional plans to help the Conservation Commission reach their decisions, and last but not least, a limited solar development overlay district, which I'll showcase in this PowerPoint, which is intended to prohibit development within 200 feet of our wetlands and on existing Section 61 agricultural land. You could still develop brownfield mounted solar or dual use solar in those areas. If you have a farm and you want to do dual use solar, even if it's in the overlay, you can do dual use solar for it, but you can't clear cut a forest for solar panels in that area. This was very much born from the desires of the group to balance a desire for adaptive reuse solar with a desire to protect land uses in the city as they exist today. I recognize that the Energy Commission might have like a specific opinion about this. I mean, maybe there's a maximalist take here that we would want to allow all solar by, building permit. I can completely understand that. I really have to thank Jamie and Maren for providing a ton of really useful input to balance the two prerogatives here between protecting our green space and allowing for meaningful solar development. So this is more, I use this PowerPoint for Conservation Commission. The biggest change is on the planning side. We're bouncing large-scale solar developments to the Conservation Commission and expanding their review role beyond the Wetlands Protection Act. So normally the Conservation Commission just says, is there jurisdictional wetlands within the area of this development? If yes, certain rules apply. In this particular case, we're asking them for a comment letter that speaks to the project's adequacy on a couple of different criteria. That criteria represents a comment letter like we already ask for from every commission and every group whenever a special permit is pulled. So we're not generating a new permit that this applicant has to get, but we're creating a process by which, the body that we think of as like the traditional nature conservation group, the LORACs of the city, can really provide meaningful input to the planning board, which may or may not have conservation as a primary goal or as an expertise area. DualUse Solar. This is an item of some controversy because people have very strong opinions about what constitutes farming. DualUse Solar is supported by the state permitting process, and it's basically where you use very tall solar panels with shade-tolerant plantings beneath them, including grazing ground, haying, blueberry bushes, and other examples of that sort to provide a dual agricultural and solar use. It actually was born by a suggestion by Jamie here on this board, and I am extremely grateful for it because it brought me down a rabbit hole of research for it. And I think it's a great idea for us. I think that specifically it threads the needle between protecting our remaining green space and providing farmers who do not have like a very farms are always financially threatened. And I want them to provide them the maximum number of ways to adaptively reuse their land while preserving some of the character of Easthampton. Because when you lose farmland, you really start a momentum that will never stop. The feed store goes out of business and then the rest of the farms are threatened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Easthampton owes a lot to its existing farms, and I want to make sure they're as supported as possible to remain as farms, but to still make money. The Limited Solar Development Overlay District is the last key component of this, in addition to a whole bunch of other clearing up and making it more obvious what I'm talking about in the solar ordinance that'll be in the main text when you guys receive it from City Council. The main idea here is that we want to specifically identify priority parts of the city that we would like to see free from the kind of solar development that we saw on, for example, 50 Florence. Now, why am I saying this? under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3, solar enjoys a lot of the same protections that uses like religious free speech uses and affordable housing enjoy, in the sense that they cannot be unduly constrained by special permit processes. You can say in a Boolean sense, yes, no sense, you can and cannot go in certain parts of the city, but we can't outright prohibit it, and we can't legislate it out of existence by a death by 1,000 cuts. These things have been successfully challenged before in court, and so my approach here is essentially a maximalist one. You know, you can't go in these parts of the city. Anywhere else in the city, you can get it in with a special permit process, and there's a ton of adaptive reuses that you could do in order to come into the city that covers solar in a wide variety of ways. We're therefore spreading a very narrow needle between protecting remaining green space, allowing for solar development, adapting to climate change, and protecting our legal rights against potential future legal action. So with all that said, here is our green map. Everything in green is in the overlay. It is a lot of the city. It is not as many parcels as you might think, because a lot of them are concentrated in this northern portion here, where there's just very big tracts of land that are actually already in Chapter 61 and therefore are eligible for dual use development as an agricultural solar, but not eligible for development under special permit, just greenfield clearance. So if they're going to become solar panels, they're going to have to combine it with farm uses, which is going to be a subject for discussion when it goes before City Council. Honestly, because some of the folks on the Agricultural Commission expressed some concern about it. I need to make clear that we're not trying to twist farmers' arms to turn their fields into solar fields, but instead to provide them that freedom, which some of them have already considered for vacant land and things like that. So with all of that said, I know I ran through that very fast. That's where we are with the solar ordinance. The goal next is it's going to go before City Council, championed by Owen, who's not still on the ordinance committee, but he's still going to bring it forward as its sponsor. And then it will be referred out to committee and then to all of our different groups. I really, again, have to thank the folks here who contributed so much time to the working group. And I wanted to solicit any of your input, and also just to signpost that this is going to be forthcoming, because there are many different bodies who contributed to this and many who will have different opinions on what sort of shape it should take. So I welcome your input. And with that, I will stop talking for once.
No, thanks so much, Curtis. That was a really good, succinct overview of what's taken some time, and it's really pretty involved. You did it all with a child in your lap too, so that's even more impressive.
I've told him all about it already. It's important that he hears me talk, not that he understands what I'm saying.
Right. His first language is going to be Massachusetts General Law. But
you better believe it, my friend. I took him to see a new drainage. I took him to see new low impact development on my street. I was like, these are straw wattles.
It's amazing. Good. Well, Curtis has done an amazing job marshaling this, getting all the disparate viewpoints together, letting people talk, letting people listen, think through this, and kind of go through several iterations of this to arrive at what he just sort of presented there. So, I've seen and been involved in the process. I'm pretty happy with it and how it's turned out, but certainly welcome any other thoughts or opinions or questions.
Having read through it this afternoon and looked at the PowerPoint, I think it looks like you guys did a ton of really great work. I love the emphasis on dual use agriculture and solar. I have a friend who just moved to Northfield and is trying to get something going up there along those lines. He's a farmer, but also, a eco-weenie and would like to support solar with his farming. So yeah, I think that's great. I was curious, how current is the PowerPoint, and when will we know whether that question about the Conservation Commission being an undue burden with another authority, is that just a question of lawyers reviewing it, or is that an appeal to the Commonwealth?
No, that's going to be a city attorney reviewing it. Okay. Our expectation is that we're not going to forward it to the Commonwealth unless we get sued. My opinion my opinion, and I'll go into detail on this. Right now, under section 1279 and 12.9, so the special permit and site plan review protocols accordingly, respectively, there's a section that just says referral to other departments. And it uses the exact same language I provide, including the 10-day and 35-day appeal windows, in which we say we refer this to other bodies during this period of time, as is our right for them to provide comment. And I make clear in the solar ordinance text that this referral is not a new permit, but it is a comment letter that we're seeking. And if there's no comment letter received, it's presumed to be approval, or presumed to be no complaint. So my goal there is to make sure that it doesn't accidentally die in committee with the Conservation Commission. Not that the Conservation Commission would do that, but with multiple different regulatory bodies, you can imagine that it's confusing. And that's usually a sore point for applicants who feel that they have to go through a bunch of different hoops. So these hoops will be set up right next to one another and they can jump through them in one motion, to continue the metaphor. Additionally, my goal is to say, look, we're not creating an onus any more than already existed under the special permit process. We're just clarifying the specific commentary that we would seek in order to make an informed decision. And hopefully this will replace the expectation on you to provide a peer review, which you, applicant, do not want to do. Now, obviously, that's not an explicit point I'm going to make to every applicant, but it is kind of the framework for why we have this here. The planning board has been loath to get a full, peer review. They're expensive, they take time, and frequently they refer just to saying yeah, the applicant didn't lie, And so doing this allows us a little bit more of a holistic process, lets us get in another body to provide good input, and hopefully passes the sniff check for all parties.
Yeah, I mean, the timing on this is good too, especially assuming that, that we get this all squared away and approved and in place, because if you all saw over the weekend, the Commonwealth did finally approve the expansion of the SMART program. So there's a lot of stuff in the queue already, but there's going to be, new rounds of development and developers coming around trying to find places to do projects. So right. It's good for us to have the ducks in a row, as it were. And again, we do want to make it easy where that makes sense, right? When we want to promote solar and not have it be an undue burden, because that's, the developers hate that. But the balance of not letting, clear cutting forests to put in solar panels, kind of thing.
I'll just add, the commission did review. Curtis came and gave this presentation with focus on the commission's element of it and what their added role would be, and they generally were in favor of it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's been a lot of good input from the members there with the working group as well. So yeah, Curtis sort of walked us through what the next steps are with this. Any other thoughts or comments, questions? Okay. Well,
can I get a copy of that PowerPoint? I haven't seen it. Can somebody send that to me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that Curtis just showed?
Yes. It was excellent, by the way. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll get that and we'll send it out to everybody on the committee, so we have a copy of that. Sure.
I just did some last minute tweakings to the ordinance today. I didn't change any text, but I moved around a bunch of stuff just so that one thing you'll notice from the applicant side is that the requirements for type 2 and type 3 permits are kind of intermixed, and I baked them apart from one another such that a reader goes through and sees general standards for all solar, standards shared by type 2 and use group 2 and use group 3 solar, and then standards specific to use group 3, including the Conservation Commission review, in order such that you're reading from least strict to most strict, and an applicant knows that you're doing all of the above if you're in each successive layer. A little sleepy.
Curtis, is there a further role for the working group at this point, or is that pretty much done?
My understanding is that the working group is probably done. Based on the last input we have. Since it's not a formal body, I don't even know how to unconvene it except to say, good job, everyone. I'll check with Jeff. I'm sure there's a more elegant way to do it than to ghost everyone like a bad date. But there you go.
Fair enough. Okay.
If it wasn't a COVID situation, we should at least get together and, raise a glass. But
I know it's been a solid 6-7 months of hard work on all people's parts.
Yeah.
But we can't exactly do that right now. So who knows?
No, that's true. Next time there's a solar project going up in town, we should all get together for like the ribbon cutting or something.
Without the knowledge and consent of the operators. They're just like, yeah, there's a bunch of guys on our property.
What are these people with champagne doing here? I don't know. Since many of us missed the chance to do it for the new school,
Oh, yeah, true.
Nice to do it for something.
All right.
Well, speaking of the new school, this is not specifically on the agenda, but do we know, is the solar system there up and running? There, yeah. Is that something that that is being monitored and like pushed to the school's website or anything already? I know like the high school you can check in on sometimes, but
I can double check on that. I can ask Bert. I would assume it's got PTO and operating and all of that, but I don't know if it's up on the website linked or anything like that. So I can follow up on that.
Okay. Yeah, I know they've been doing a lot of updates to the school's website, and they have like a new group that was doing stuff there. It seems like pretty good and responsive. So it'd be nice to have that up and something that, start to point people to as another thing to celebrate about the new building from an energy standpoint. Not to mention the fact that, Whitebrook not being occupied, I assume the electrical aspects of that are now off more or less off the books for the city till, maybe not fully till it's knocked down, but soon. Mary, I see you shaking your head, right? I know it's still there for now, but.
Oh yeah, no, it all stays on there until it's fully decommissioned. So no, energy wise, there shouldn't be a whole lot more. I don't know if they have to worry about frozen pipes at this point, or there'll be sort of a process of turning things off. I don't know the exact timing of all that. Demolition probably won't start until March, because they've got to deal with removing all of the sort of hazardous materials first. And so that happens step one. So that's already starting. But what people will see externally in terms of demolition, I don't think that starts until March. So I don't know if they have to if we're paying any kind of utility costs until that point, just so pipes don't freeze and stuff like that, but not sure.
Right. Yeah, that place going out in a blaze of burst pipes and like frozen stuff everywhere would just be too fitting. But cool. Well, all right. I'll make a note about the solar and getting that up on the website, and something that we can all take a look at and share for the next time. Okay. Well, Curtis, thanks so much again for your time and bringing that back to the committee to share with us and show us, where we're going. Again, it's exciting to have things up to speed and up to date with that, keeping up with the world of solar, which is evolving rapidly.
Absolutely. Thanks to you all too.
Yeah. My doorbell just rang, but I'm not to ignore that for a second. But why don't we move on? Cassie, you want to give us an update on the Green Community Grants proposal?
Yeah, so there isn't a huge update. I haven't heard back from them for the electric car submission that we made. But like Maren said, it's probably not going to be until February that we would hear any comments. And I did not receive any comments for the review of the annual report that was submitted on time. So there's no comments for either of those two items yet. I don't know if you guys want to start discussing potential next grant ideas or not. But otherwise, there's not too much, but hopefully next month a lot more to say.
Do you have?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to ask if you kind of have like a whiteboard covered in ideas of things for which to apply, or whether there needs to be brainstorming.
Well, the last time we talked about it, one of the things that was left off was potentially trying to tackle the lights, getting the rest of the lights converted. When I was talking to the regional coordinator, he was saying that it's a little trickier than I had anticipated, and that's why we didn't pursue it this time. in conjunction with the car request. So I still think that would be worthy to look into, just because, we've already done a good chunk of them. So might as well do the rest. But otherwise, I mean, in terms of energy conversion, our big things were the schools. And now that we're having this, the new Mountain View School is almost done and we're almost rid of the Whitebrook and things like that, it's going to be a huge impact. So I don't know if, it's hard to say what the next big project would be, I mean, unless you guys have ideas, but I really feel like the schools are such a huge element of our energy usage and this, then there's the other public buildings are the city offices, and then the public safety complex. Public safety complex is pretty new, and then this building itself. I mean, there's improvements that could be made, but.
Cassie, I'm curious, do you know if there's any development? There was a time where we were looking at, I think it was Honeywell, who was going to be doing solar on the carport system behind the public complex, and looking at 50 Payson. I mean, has there been any development on that from your knowledge within the planning department?
I don't know of any developments with it, but it may just not have reached me. But I can explicitly look out for that and do a little digging for the next meeting. But otherwise, I haven't heard any big news of it yet. But yeah, that's kind of the big other thing for improvements would be the Honeywell project. So yeah, I'll ask the Jeff Bagg and whoever else I can for the next meeting and get some info on that.
Yeah, the mayor's office is supposed to be reporting back to us, but we don't get very much communication there. So if you wouldn't mind finding out if there's been any developments there and what sort of the status might be, that'd be very helpful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm going to come back to what Cassie was talking about before, but yeah, just for John and others are here, with the Honeywell process. What happened is, there was a proposal done. They put together a bunch of stuff. The mayor then, did come to us, but sort of, we had a couple quick discussions about it, but essentially was trying to, get a bond approved so that the money could be, drawn down and spent at some point. Basically, that was then approved by the city council. But I think there was supposed to be some back and forth with Honeywell on the specific scope of what exactly was going to get done, looking at, payback periods, looking at, some other incentives that may be at play. And last we had heard, right, they were supposed to be coming back to us with any updates and like revisals to that. But that's where we kind of have not heard anything further. So, but that's the quick background. There is that, Honeywell sort of came to the city and put together this whole program of stuff, and the mayor got the money for it approved essentially in a bonding structure. So yeah, updates on that from wherever we can get them would be helpful. That was sort of the next thing on the agenda, but back to the grant proposals. And I missed a minute there, so I apologize for it. But so we're waiting to hear back on the current proposal, and I think if I recall from last time, we won't really be able to apply again, right, until we close out that previous one. Anyway, right, we have to get them if it gets approved, let's say, then we have to spend it and sort of close it out before we could apply for another round.
That's my understanding. And hopefully it wouldn't take relatively very long just because everything's kind of in place. We just need to get the okay for the spending and then they would spend it and purchase the vehicles. Right. But yeah, I mean, there still will be a time associated with that. Mm-hmm. And then also it's contingent on the approval of the annual report. That needs to be approved. Like I said, I haven't received any comments about it yet, but I'll keep you all posted if I do. Okay.
And because the grant cycles is like every 6 months, if I recall.
2. Yep.
It's like April and October or something like that.
I want to say I can pull it up exactly, but yeah, there's 2 within the year, so it's
right.
like kind of 2 blocks.
Okay, so given the timing, most likely we wouldn't be looking at applying for something else probably until October, roughly. there's some time to come up with some additional ideas. If people have, are thinking about things or see, stuff that they want to further discuss, we can take that up at future meetings for, things that the grants that the city may go after around that.
Yeah, kind of in that same vein, and I know if you guys don't want to all get into brainstorming right now, that's fine. One of the other things I heard about was that there's a national program for reviewing wastewater treatment plants, which are often another big energy user that's publicly owned by a city. And so that was the kind of like last area that I thought, outside the schools and everything, that might be worth looking into. I know our last project, Green Communities Grant, was about updating HVAC systems within the Goslin wastewater treatment plant. So maybe there's other actions that could be taken through this review. So I can look into that further if you guys think that'd be a good idea, and kind of put that on the board for potential something to support the Green Communities Grant, if they find something.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm wondering if there isn't, either information from an accounting perspective or a utilities perspective or whatever, that of sort of like what the biggest consumers are, a way to sort of you look at the data and help prioritize. Well, okay, here's our next biggest use, or a third of the city's budget is for transportation fuel, so that would be a great thing to focus on, from a financial perspective and or a fossil fuels perspective.
Right. Yeah, because I haven't looked at it from the financial aspect or like accounting aspect. I only have access to the data tool, the data collection tool that we use for green communities, can show you the energy and the cost. But yeah, big picture wise, I think that's a good thing that potentially could help steer things.
Question. Isn't that topic which Scott just raised, isn't that something that Honeywell would have dealt with in their proposals? Both potential energy savings and bang for the buck kind of stuff, or did they not?
Well, I would think any project that we would go for, we'd make sure it's not like already being covered by Honeywell, but maybe someone else can speak more to whether or not that was part of the review.
I just mean in terms of painting a general picture of where energy gets consumed in the city.
Right.
And, how much, what does it cost? What's it for? Has that kind of background footprint been, analysis been done somewhere along the way?
I think there have been reports in the past. I think the Honeywell project had some pretty specific limitations as far as looking at, like, excluding the schools, as I recall. So it's just 50 Payson and the municipal building, and they touched on some of the solar installations, but it wasn't really a citywide assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, although I know that DPW was involved with it as well, on some level, at least in terms of talking to them and helping them scope out some stuff. But I don't know that they did a comprehensive sort of energy audit. And Connie, you had something to add?
Yeah, at the last city council meeting, DPW talked about the wastewater treatment plant is in need of significant repairs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think to be able to connect with them and be able to figure out what money is available to do what would be a really great project, because he was saying that in the coming months, we're talking, and certainly coming years, we're talking about significant repairs. And so to be able to link those and really think intentionally and strategically about what that could look like would be great. And then I'm going to have to jump off here in just a minute, but I also, in terms of speaking at city council, there's a section on the agenda for committee reports. And so you just need to reach out to Barb or Omar to get on the agenda. And I can help you to do that too, but I certainly want to empower you to do what you need to do.
That's a good idea, and something that hadn't really been on my radar. So, yeah, that's great. I will look into that. The next, that's at every meeting, right? Every general city council meeting?
Yeah, there's a committee report section.
Okay. When is, I can look and what the next one is.
The next meeting is next Wednesday. And so I don't know if you need, more time to put that together or whatever, but the next one would be in a little over a week.
Okay. So yeah, I might be able to do something by then, or at least just sort of show up and talk for a couple minutes about what's going on.
Mhm.
Curtis said you had your hand raised.
Yeah, the wastewater treatment plant, Cassie, weren't they discussing doing like a solar field at some point as an accessory thing? Is this already known to all parties here?
I think that was part of the Honeywell.
Okay,
It
great.
was.
I'm 2 steps
was also
behind.
on the Honeywell
I'm
project.
delighted to be behind on this one. Great.
But actually, just to tie it back, Curtis, to what came up in the discussions with the working group is the other, the old landfill, like the Glendale landfill, which was previously sort of verboten for solar, right?
Yeah.
Like taken out of, but now the goal is to put that back in play for solar. Is that correct?
Not just to put that back into play, but to substantially relax the permitting requirements it would be required to obtain, because it will be a brownfield solar. It and the water treatment plant are both brownfields, and therefore you could put in solar there as a use group 2, regardless of whether or not that particular parcel falls in the overlay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So could be a fairly significant project there, but I guess would require a developer to take it on versus us just saying, "Hey, that's a good idea."
Right. Yeah. One of the pitfalls of zoning is that you're creating channels for which public interest will flow, but you cannot generate that public interest. A dialogue I had with one of my colleagues in planning school who was from China, he was like, "We will build a factory here." I was like, "All right, cool. You can do that."
Yeah, so we lack the central planning here.
I was envious. His reports were much cleaner than mine.
Well, and what I would just make a comment here too. I mean, this is one of the primary reasons that, the fact that now with this new ordinance that's in process, right? It's not law yet within the city, but because we knew that this was part of the process, this is why the committee was recommending against the Honeywell proposal, because the Honeywell proposal really was going after some of the most expensive potential models. Building a steel carport behind the public safety complex was going to be, dollar per watt was going to be very uneconomical and did not make fiscal sense for the city. And we recommend against that proposal because of that, in full knowledge that, in the near future, the brownfield of our second area for our landfill is going to be available, and it's going to make much more economical sense, both in terms of building and the long-term value of that. And so, this committee recommended against the Honeywell proposal based on that. And it was, so anyway, just want to put that in context as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where there's still, a part for us to play, and along the lines of what John was asking before, like, was there sort of a comprehensive analysis done? I think we've asked for that and not really ever been shown sort of the, the behind the scenes discussion or calculations that took place in creating that. I know, Scott, I know you've requested some of that information before, and we've kind of come up empty. Connie, thanks so much for coming. We appreciate it. So I think, there potentially, there's still a role for us to play in for pushing back a little bit on stuff that, if from an economic standpoint doesn't make sense when there might be better options available. Again, nothing's set in stone with that. I mean, the money is available, but still has to be spent wisely, I would hope.
Question, quick one, informational.
Yeah.
Did it end up being 3 million? The bond?
It's a good question. I don't.
I heard there was
3.5, I believe.
6. Okay.
3.5 million.
And is that the one where a good significant portion of that was HVAC updates for the schools and city, schools at least because of COVID? Funding?
No, that's different. That's
separate. That's separated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the schools were not a part of the Honeywell proposal and review.
Mm-hmm. It's all other municipal buildings and things like that.
Okay.
In terms of, John, another thing that we have talked about for a while and is a little less pressing now, but we had talked about all the different city buildings and like the energy bills, the electric bills, and like trying to, assess like where the largest uses are. And there has been some work done on that and trying to combine some things there. But, again, it's always been that, the wastewater treatment's a big one. And then and White Brook were always sort of like the two major areas where, improvements could be made.
Maybe what you could, if Jamie, if you're able to pull it up and maybe share with John just the latest Green Communities report that Cassie worked on last fall. I don't know if one of you could share that, I'm just thinking. Yeah. You've got his email, so if you wanted to share that with him, then he could see that. And in there is, well, I guess the depth of that information is more within the Mass Energy Insight website and data than necessarily that's just there in that grant, in that report. But it is all in there, and it does talk about, what's going on with our buildings. So, but I don't know.
That's a good
It's a good start anyway.
Yep, for sure. Another thought that I've had here as we're talking about this is, with the federal infrastructure bill that passed, I don't know if there's anything that's available for like cities, to take advantage of it. It's all going to get passed through the states. But, with the whatever trillion, dollars that was for that, like, is that something that we could take advantage of, or do we have to wait for, the states to take money and create programs? Or I haven't looked into it at all, but just something that popped in my head. If anybody knows anything about that.
I would volunteer to look into that, but also just generally say that anybody who's got projects going under this committee who needs a gopher or somebody to help them, dig up information, do some research, put the stuff together, just contact me. I don't know if you can share my email, Jamie, with the committee.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I have time, but that one in particular, if you'd like, I could start some digging and report back.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. See, what the mechanisms are, if there's, specific set asides for stuff that might be relevant for us that we could, push for the whether the planning department or elsewhere.
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah. Because more money available, it makes it easier to get some of these things done, especially if there's a big need with, say, like, wastewater treatment's going to need some significant repair. That seems like the type of thing that dovetails with what all that money is supposed to be for. Okay. Let's see. Well, we jumped around a little bit. We covered, I think, the green community stuff and the Honeywell as best as we're going to right now. So next thing on here was just talking a little bit more about some social media posts. We do have a new member, so committee recruitment is something we were thinking about especially when we thought we had 2 openings. Technically, I guess John makes our 5th member currently, still pending Misty's status, but there are even with that, there's still 2 sort of associate positions on the committee that are listed on the city website that could be filled. So there's still room for people to join.
May I ask, John, how you found out about the committee and came to join us? You're muted at the moment.
I was looking for it. I didn't find anything on a website except that I searched out the EAC and read about what you guys were doing and filled out the application. But I was looking for this kind of involvement, and I dug it up.
Great. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, to the extent that, we have stuff to push out there. Again, if we can get some information on the new school and the solar output, that might be something to post about. Again, looking for members as we ramp up this talk with aggregation at the city council level. Starting to get some information out about that. If we get the green community grant and for the electric vehicles, that would be something to promote and put out there as well. Again, even just sharing the Green Communities report, the yearly report that Maren mentioned, send over to John, and some of the other stuff there are some things that we could look at putting out into the public eye. But if anybody has other ideas, certainly open to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've dropped the ball on that over the holidays and possibly before. And I've got a few email lists that send interesting articles sometimes, so I'm trying to incorporate some of that. And I appreciate the list that you just rattled off. So I will try to post again, like at least on a once a week basis, maybe a little more. Have some catching up to do. So, that's good content.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to share that from my personal, that once it's up to, and if there's other ideas about ways to get information out there, I don't know if there would be, but there is so much happening, so many good things happening between all the projects and the solar ordinance updates and everything. So nice to publicize that, let people see it.
Which platforms or sites or whatever do you use, Scott, or does the committee use for getting stuff out?
So far, just Facebook. I don't know whether we have an Instagram or Twitter account, but I've just been putting stuff up on our Facebook group. And then usually, it's particularly if it's something city related, I share it to the Easthampton town group page on Facebook, and they usually approve those posts as well. When it's just an article about a Boston Globe article about, a policy thing, I tend not to try to share those because I don't really think that's specifically enough interesting to the Easthampton group page. But certainly stuff that is happening in the city, I think is good for that audience. And then hopefully maybe somebody sees something there and then makes their way back to our group page and sees, oh, there's an energy advisory committee. What else do they do?
Yeah, but John, it's another thing for you too. If you have outlets for publicity or sharing things or ideas around that, well open to all that.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I'm not real sharp with social media stuff, but might have ideas for what could go there. But yeah, I wouldn't be the one to set it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's any of our forte, really.
Okay.
not really influencers on committee.
I have an EAC TikTok.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, get with the times.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Are there any other new or additional business anyone would like to discuss today?
It may not be worth discussing. We haven't met since the webinar on November 30th from Eversource, and I ended up not being able to join that. I don't know whether it's worth summarizing, or I think your email shortly afterward was not that it wasn't super fruitful or interesting.
Right. I even totally forgot about it. So
I was just looking back through, EAC stuff since our last meeting. So
yeah, that was, it's really limiting. The mayor was on that call and she did ask some questions during it. So I know there was, some connection to the city, but it's all limited to Eversource owned property. What they're trying to do, and short us figuring out a listing of all the Eversource owned property in the city. It seemed like a lot of their stuff was oh yeah, we're trying to figure this out. It was a lot of that. It was not a lot of concrete details on here's exactly what we're going to do and this is our time frame for rolling it out. It was we've been mandated to do this and we're trying to figure out how to do it, and we'd love to theoretically love to work with you at some date in the future. So that was kind of what I took away from it. But yeah, worth keeping an eye on, especially if they start to get things rounded out and they get things through their lawyers and all the layers that they're going to have to do. You know, I don't know how it maps against the overlay. I imagine Eversource gets a little bit, you know, have some carte blanche over you know, what they do on their own property. You know, benefits of that being that it's, you know, already near their infrastructure. So there's probably some, you know, cost savings associated with that. But I don't know, Maren, is this something that you've heard anything more about, or like had seen out in the wild?
Sorry, ask that question again.
Just this Eversource thing where the Eversource is being, you know, promoting solar within the Commonwealth, like on their, or various places on their own property, where they've been given this sort of mandate to do more solar projects on properties that they own.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Didn't think so, but figured I'd ask. So, Scott, I think, yeah. Long answer to a short question was not much.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, you know, trying to figure out next meeting dates. I did throw, like, you know, February 28th on there as a possibility. Barbara from the city was asking me, like, what our general meeting policy was going to be going forward. So I think they like to be able to put that up on the, you know, the city website, kind of generally, like, it seems like we've kind of settled on Monday with 4 p.m. being an okay time for everybody. Is that still the case in the new year here? Okay.
Third week, is that?
That would be the fourth week, but we could move it up to the 21st and try to do like the third Monday of every month.
Yeah, that's President's Day on my calendar. I don't know if that matters to the city.
Yeah.
I mean, not the 28th, but the 21st would be.
Right. I think that's why I put the 28th, because I was trying to avoid
that. So that for at least for February, that may be
school vacation week.
Prudent.
Yeah, and we could try to go with like the fourth Monday or something too, but then we'd potentially run into some other holiday problems around Memorial Day and whatever, but probably adjust.
Right.
But if we just, let's see, said February 28th, and then we could also just plan for like March 28th. I don't think that conflicts with anything, so we can at least set the next couple of meetings like once a month towards the end of the month. Maren, that work for you?
It does not the next couple meetings, but we've got a quorum without me, so I think that's fine too. The 28th, I've got some finance subcommittee stuff for school committee. But you said March 21st was your next one?
Or right? 21st or the 28th we could do.
Okay. Yeah, that works for me. I can probably make that the 28th is fine.
Okay. So we'll go with the February 28th, March 28th. If we were to continue that, then it would be, April 25th, May 23rd. I guess if we did the fourth Monday, we could avoid the Memorial Day issue. So maybe it's just what I'll tell Barbara for now is we'll try to do the fourth Monday of each month for the time being.
I have a quick question. Is the Zoom link always the same?
No, I have to get a new one every time.
Okay.
And at some point in the future, the city's moving to Google Meets as well.
I know. Yeah.
I was informed that they're actually waiting for a feature update on Google Meet now before they do that. So it's going to stick with Zoom for the time being. So we'll be on Zoom for at least the next couple would be my guess. I think it was supposed to be sometime in the spring when Google gets this new feature in place that's going to make things easier for posting or something. So.
Okay.
But
for what it's worth.
Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
So I don't think I saw an email with the agenda for today, so I had to go on the city website to find it to get the Zoom link. So if you are able to send out the agenda before the meetings, it just makes it a little more convenient.
I apologize. Yeah, I meant to do that, and I sent it to John, but but I've neglected to send it to the two of you, perhaps. So I will do that. But
Thanks.
and now there's a different person that gives the Zoom links these days too. So I bothered Zoe by accident one more time.
Gotcha.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Anything else that we have not covered? Okay. Connie, thank you for joining us. Anything else that you have to add or questions or all good? All right. Feel free to put in an application to join us officially on the committee.
What is an associate member as opposed to a regular member? What's the difference?
I would assume the associate members do not have voting capacity would be my guess.
So you only have openings for associate members right now? Is that right?
Well, we have a fifth member, but she hasn't been available and she hasn't responded anything in well over a year. So, and the term may be up at some point too, theoretically, because I don't know when Scott and my term or Marin's terms end, but
2 years.
They're 2 years, yeah. So we're coming up on 2 years, I think, because we started like right as COVID happened.
Right. I think I went to one in-person meeting and then.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So there could be one spot open on the full committee.
Okay.
And we could probably clear that up with the mayor's office if we need to.
Okay.
Because
I actually was thinking about sending in an application. So I'll do that and we'll see what happens.
Do it. That'd be great. We'd love to have you join us officially.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, good. We'll look forward to that perhaps for the next meeting. I will do my best to get the agendas out to everybody in advance. February 28th. And see y'all then. We'll have some updates and some things happen in the meantime.
Right.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Great meeting. I'm glad I came.
Everybody.
Go ahead.
And Happy New Year.
Oh, yes.